So happy to be here with you. And we have folks who I know are looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the O1. So we've had some awesome conversations about O1s and H1Bs, and I'm excited to talk to you here today. So everyone, thank you so much. We are running a few minutes behind, but I promise we will pack the next hour with ample content and information that should be really helpful as you consider and explore these O1 visa strategies. So you might be here because you're starting a company. You might be here because you're an artist or an influencer. You might represent these individuals and be thinking about creative strategies for them. But really excited to dive in today. I'm Danielle Goldman. I'm CEO of the Build Fellowship. We have creative solutions in the immigration world for top talent from around the globe who are building careers in the United States. And I am so thrilled to have Jacob here with us today. And I'm going to have him introduce himself. He's a rock star. I've had so much fun getting to know him, and I think you'll really enjoy our conversation. Jacob, you want to introduce yourself?
Of course. Thanks, Danielle, and for having me here. And I think it's exciting to do these events, specifically focus on an industry that doesn't get so much attention, unfortunately. So I'm Jacob Spajnik. I'm an immigration attorney. We're based in San Diego, California. And our firm does all kind of immigration services, but we have a specialty specifically for business immigration, and within that, focusing on artists, influencers, YouTubers, TikTokers. We do a lot of work with this industries from the early days, and obviously me being on social media myself, very active on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube from early days. I've been on Instagram for over 8 years. We build a large loyal following, and I do understand the benefits of being on social media, and that's why it's much easier for us to work with our clients that are coming here from all over the world. And we went through the TikTok revolution and during COVID 2020, and now we have resurrection of YouTube. People are coming here to create content, to speak at conferences, to model, to do videos, and with the rise of studios like Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, and all that, a lot of talent is coming and going, and so there's a lot of interest to understand what they can do to come here. But unfortunately, immigration law hasn't changed in the past 30 years to accommodate these changes in technology and media. So we have to use the existing visas we have and adapt and show people how they can do that. That's going to be the focus of our seminar, and also kind of talk about some of the exciting things that you're doing to even further help those that are coming in here to build their careers.
Totally. Yeah. The reality is the law hasn't changed. So the way we work within the law has to. And so
Correct.
I appreciate working with individuals like yourself, Jacob, because we're always thinking of ways to build and innovate and think creatively. And that's why we're here today. For everyone who's joined, you're here with two people who are committed to figuring out ways to make this work for you. And so that's the conversation we're going to have today. But I do want to start with the basics and really dive into just outlining for folks here today, Jacob, what an O1 is and the two categories and how this applies. I have a little cheat sheet here, but the first question everyone asks me is, how do you qualify? How do I know if I'm qualified, and what are the criteria? So if you could just start by outlining these basics, that would be really great.
So typically when an individual that has certain skills, certain achievements in their career, they want to be able to come to the United States to either join a company or do something on their own. They should be able to, the way we do it as immigration attorneys, we try to kind of fit the individuals based on their backgrounds to what the immigration law allows us. And so, the O1 visa is a visa that allows individuals with extraordinary ability in certain areas to be able to come to the United States, join organizations, or sometimes do things on their own. And the O1 visa is the most common visa that I use for entrepreneurs or people in arts and media. And we'll talk about the different categories there. So the O1 visa, as you show on the screen, is divided into two categories. We've got the O1A visa, which is typically designed for people in sciences, education, business, or athletics. And I would say that for O1A visa, I would use it for most people that are coming here. You know, a lot of our startup founders, people that graduate university in the US that want to start a company, or individuals that have done amazing things, business, science, education, and they want to come to the United States either to continue doing what they're doing or start things on their own. So for O1A, I would do usually, you know, technology, engineers, startup founders. Those are more people that are in business or sometimes in science, which right now, you know, most of my work for startups and people that are entrepreneurs is focused on the O1A visa. And the way it works is that either you have something like, let's say you won a Nobel Prize or something, you know, one of those international prizes, or you have to meet 3 of 8 criteria in the O1A, and when we get to the O1B, 3 of 6. Most clients that I work with are not Nobel Prize winners, even though in the past we've done some people that were at that level, but most individuals are not at that level. So when somebody comes to me and says, you know, I want to come to work in the US, I've done some cool stuff, but I've read that I have to be an Emmy winner,
Right.
get an Oscar, you know, get a Nobel Prize. I'm not one of those. I don't think I can do it. And I say, well, yeah, maybe you don't have that, but can you show me you meet 3 of the 8? And so, in this case, we're focusing on if somebody they got awards. Usually, the top 3 I use is awards, membership, and high salary. Because, for example, if somebody's an entrepreneur, they maybe they raised some money, maybe they went to something like Y Combinator, one of these incubators, which will meet some of the memberships. Many people now are speaking at conferences. We can use as judging. So O1A, in my mind, and especially in the last 2 years under the Biden administration, there's been a lot of flexibility. For example, they opened the door for O1A to apply for recent graduates as long as they're studying STEM, which is science, technology, mathematics. If you graduate from one of these professions, you'll be able, and you get a job in a particular field and you're working on a particular project, you can still qualify for an O1A visa, even if you don't have enough experience. So it looks like the past 3 years, they did open the door for more people to apply for this. And the reason is also because other visas in limited supply, like the H-1B, and obviously your program has helped a lot of people to still get H-1B visa, even though they couldn't get it because of the cap. So O1A is more, let's focus on, if you're trying to kind of differentiate, is that you're in business, you're a scientist, maybe you are doing something in sports, and then you can come here and get a job, or you are doing this for an agency, and we'll talk about that as well in a minute, how that works. The other kind of O1B, which is kind of the focus, I think, of this webinar, is people that are coming to here in arts, motion picture, television industry. Arts and motion picture, they have a little bit of different segments within the O1B, but typically you need to meet 3 out of 6 criteria, kind of similar to the O1A. And usually what I'm focusing on is show me some leading role, which could be, are you part of a project that kind of is focused around you? Have you done any, if it's a production, is it kind of, are you a major part of that production? Has it shown any commercial success because you've been part of it? It kind of spread around the world. We're also looking at high salary recognition in the media. Usually with O1B, I try to get at least 4 criteria to increase success. But the O1B has been one of the visas I was using for artists like tattoo artists, influencers, YouTubers, TikTokers, Instagram models. And the reason is because they can show financial success. They can show recognition because they were involved in big campaigns. They can show commercial success, which it translates, the amount of followers translates to the amount of income they're making from the post. So O1B, even though the visa hasn't changed in 30 years, some of this criteria, our job as immigration attorneys in this 2024 era is to translate those requirements into what is actually needed to satisfy the criteria. And again, O1, you can do it through an employer, or you can do it through an agency, in the sense that you can have like a third party that will kind of hold your visa and perfect. So that kind of leads to who can actually hold an O1 visa. So unlike the traditional work visa like the H-1B, you need to have an employer, you have to have a relationship with that employer. The rules are pretty strict. When it comes to the O1 visa, both for the O1A and for O1B, you can have a relationship with an employer, which could be a US company, it could be even your own company if you're a startup founder. The way I'm doing it right now, a lot of my founders, they have their own entity, and that entity sponsors their O1 visa, and eventually they can get employees to work for their company. But you can be that way. But the most common way that I see for somebody that doesn't have a company, but they still want to be able to do things, for example, let's say we have an expert in AI right now that I'm doing a visa for him. He doesn't really have a company of his own, but he wants to be able to provide his expertise, how to essentially modify languages like ChatGPT and Claude to be able to use in simple apps. This person is so valuable that his hourly rate is 3,500 an hour. And so for him, he can work through an agent. So he found an agent, which is basically a company that is a consultancy company that works with a lot of these big companies, and they hold his O1. And now he is getting these projects with multiple of these companies. And obviously the high salary is not an issue, because imagine how much he's making per month if his hourly rate is 3,500 an hour, right? So it just kind of shows you the different things we can do. And specifically for artists, we can do that. It's very common for them to have an agency that will hold their visa, and then they'll be able to do modeling or projects as an influencer or as a YouTuber. And I think that is
The
something that is
reality,
so
that's so
powerful.
interesting. So Jacob, the reality is that you can be sponsored directly with one company
Right.
if you are seeking an O1, or you could, if you're an artist, you could have an O1 with one specific gallery or one
Correct.
specific talent agency or one specific, one employer. But if
Correct.
you want to have some of this freedom of mobility, and you are like this AI consultant and you would like to work with multiple companies, your strategy is that there is this agent that can actually, you can have the agent be the sponsor of this visa, and
Correct.
you have to then demonstrate that you have the employment, right? But it doesn't have to be with just one employer. So
Correct.
for anyone on the call that's really seeking to work across multiple employers, an agent might be an interesting path for them. Is that accurate?
Correct. Correct. And so what is needed when you actually have an agent is you need to provide what is called deal memos or project memos, where we can show the government what exactly you might be doing, even if those deal memos won't pan out. But at least they want to see, what is he going to do over the next year? Is he going to work with Disney? Is he going to do a shoot for this hotel? Things like that, almost like contracts that are not necessarily fully must be executed, but at least have an idea what the person will be doing. And those deal memos will serve as the foundation for the agent's role to show, like, because it's not just enough to show that you have somebody who holds your visa. They also want to know, well, what is you're going to be doing the next year or so for the duration of your visa while you have the O1.
Mm-hmm.
And that creates a lot of flexibility, because, like I said, a lot of the modeling agencies, or if you are an artist, they don't want to sign the O1 petition, because they are, first of all, they don't understand what it is. They're worried about liability. They're concerned that, and also for the artists, I've noticed a lot of the artists, they say, well, I don't want to be committed to just one agency, because I have options to work with multiple of them. And so if they hold my visa, I feel entitled, I feel committed. And so I feel kind of like I'm locked. And so working with an agency is going to be very helpful for them to be able to build their career here, build their portfolio book, which is needed for them to continue to grow in the industry.
And what happens, Jacob, if you are working for one employer? If you're a foreign national, you're working for one employer, you do get an O1 and you want to move employers. Do you have to file a new O1? And what happens if you have multiple employers as an agent versus if you're working with an agency? How does that work?
So basically, if you're working for an employer, so let's take example of a tattoo artist. If we focus on the O1B, let's focus on art. If you're a tattoo artist, you're working for a studio. The studio holds your O1B visa, you're getting paid, you're working, it's great. But now you have this opportunity and this is it's a true example of a case that I'm describing, where he was working for a tattoo art studio for a year. He became very, very good. And then he started getting offers for speaking, for consulting and for working at different shows on his own. So now working for that one company was limiting. So what he did, he found an agent, and that agent was holding his. So we transferred the visa to the agency, and through the agency, I showed the deal memos that he has speaking engagement. He has the art show in Europe. He's doing, like his own project, and that was sufficient for him to be able to work through the agency. So yeah, but if you work for one company, then you want to work for somebody else, you can just easily apply for a new O1 as an employer transfer.
Mhm.
Yeah, but you still have to reapply. You cannot just have one and then yeah.
Right. So agent sponsorship creates this freedom of mobility and sort of a control over your own path and
Right.
your ability to work for multiple employers. And it's not that if you work for an employer and you get an O1 approved, you can't move. You can, you just have to refile an O1, and that costs money, and there's a time commitment that is necessary.
Absolutely.
Right.
Exactly. And sometimes, even if you refile and you change an employer, immigration might adjudicate your case. Say, well, even though you got an O1 the first time, doesn't mean we think you qualify to get it the second time.
Right. Right.
So it's
Interesting.
definitely helpful. But again, an agency will work in certain cases. In other cases, people that have a plan to have one job, then for them maybe it's better. But if you own the freedom, the agency is definitely a better way to go if it fits your industry.
I think what was interesting, and I've heard a few folks ask this question about specifically modeling industry and the music industry, the agency, and you touched upon this, but I just want to dig in a little. The agency has the ability to sponsor the O1 as the employer of this individual or as the representative.
Right.
What is the decision-making process typically between an artist and that agency? And can you talk through what that thought process is and pros and cons for both the agent and the agency, for the agency and the foreign national?
Right. Well, so the thing is, you've got a few kinds of agents. You've got agents that, they've been in the industry for a long time, and they worked with foreign artists for a while. And so they understand the benefits of the sponsorship. And then they will do it. But there's a lot of agencies that, open in the past 5-7 years. And for them, the whole visa process is a little bit foreign. It's kind of scary because what does it mean if I sign the paperwork? Many of them are worried about liability. And the reason is because a lot of these artists are in the public eye. They do things, they say things, people getting sued. So I think a lot of the agencies are worried about certain liabilities when they are hiring, foreign nationals. But the ones that have done this for many years, they understand that, as long as they have clear, contracts and rules, it's not that bad. Another issue is that some of these agencies are hiring artists for a limited duration. So maybe like one project or maybe like one or two campaigns. And for them, they feel like they are getting committed with something that might end in 6 months. And they went through the whole process and the financial responsibility. So that's why many of these modeling agencies are not sponsoring as much as we think. And specifically with the rise of social media, there's a lot of agencies that work with influencers. They represent them, and many of them just don't want to sponsor because they're like, well, I don't know if I'm going to be working with you in a year from now, because there's such demand, and the rotation of talent is huge, specifically in the influencer industry, that very few agencies do. Some of them sponsor. Like we worked with some agencies that sponsor influencers, and they are happy with it, but quite a few of them are not interested in doing that because they have no idea what the longevity will in the future will be with those influencers, because they get so many of them. It's almost like you can be, somebody like Bella Porsche from TikTok. If you heard of her, she blew up within a few months, and then within less than a year, nobody hears about her, and that's kind of the lifespan of an influencer that is getting paid and coming to the United States. There's a lot of foreigners that are coming from Canada, from Russia, from China. We have a lot of influencers from Europe, especially Italy and France, that are coming to the United States, but their lifespan is not that long. So that's why the concern is, I'm going to go through the visa process. It'll take me 6 months. By the time you get here, you do some projects, I may not need to work with you anymore. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how they are looking at that
Makes a lot of sense.
discussions to
Totally.
somebody.
And we had a question that's absolutely relevant to what this conversation is about US agents. How do you become an agent? And what are some people are actually going and having friends serve as an agent. And you and I had a side conversation about this at
Yeah.
one point. What is happening in the space right now?
So
And how
yeah, that's a good
people make
question.
decisions?
So what we have to realize is that when we prepare those cases, we file them with the USCIS, which is an immigration service. And what they do is they do their own what is called research, and they have requirements. So the definition of an agent is kind of still very general. But the point is that if somebody just opens an LLC, a friend, and sponsors somebody without any other further context, those cases get scrutinized more. So, for example, let's say you want to sponsor somebody as a singer, and then you open an LLC and you have a basic website. The USCIS is going to ask questions. So, what does this agent do aside from this particular singer? You know what I mean? So they don't want people to do one isolated kind of like deal.
Yes.
And maybe you'll pass the first time. Sometimes you can pass. The point is that what if you don't pass? What if they scrutinize the agency? Like, when did you open? We see that you filed the LLC 2 months ago. Then you filed for this person. We see that the only client you have is this one guy. You know what I mean? So it is technically it's possible because the law doesn't say that a brand new LLC cannot do it. But now USCIS is becoming much more strict with every visa, not just this. And so you think about this. A client comes to me and says, Jacob, in 6 months, I need to be here to get on this campaign. And again, true story, like a TikTok influencer. I need to be here in 6 months. This is how much money is at stake. My best friend wants to be the agent. And I tell him, while technically it's possible, here's what can go wrong. I file your case through your friend, and we get a massive request for evidence. And now your case is in the USCIS black dungeon hole of RFE response. 6 months pass, we don't have an answer, you lose your contract, right? That's one scenario. Second scenario, it might work. The third scenario, why don't you actually work with the actual good agent that I know I can pass your case so we don't miss this opportunity? You know what I mean? So if somebody comes and says, I have no idea what I want to do. I want to start my life in the US, and my friend wants to help me. I say, well, fine, let's try it. Worst case, it will be denied. We'll try it again. You know what I mean? So it really depends on the scenario. Is there an urgency here? How big is the campaign? Who is involved?
Yes.
All these things we analyze, and we decide together, do we work with your best friend, or let's find a professional agency, or maybe your actual agent will do it. You know what I mean?
Totally.
These are the kind of discussions I have with the agents, with the models, with the talent, as we try to figure out, because a lot of them have their own attorneys, but they're not immigration talent attorneys. They don't understand how the process works. So then they send me the request. I work with their lawyer. They have a lawyer, and then we kind of all work together to make sure that, because the key is, are we going to meet the deadline? Are they going to lose the contract? Right? If they do lose the contract, then what's the point of even doing this?
Totally. No, it's really good. It's really thoughtful. Clearly you're putting a lot into making sure that the foreign national is choosing the best case scenario for everyone has their own confluence of factors that make up their decision-making process in all of this. But one of those factors is also, how good a friend is this for you? Because if you get in a fight with a friend who holds your visa, that also seems like a pretty big risk to me. The agent has the ability to terminate the visa at any point, and giving that power to someone in your network that's power. I mean, that's something that should be considered as well.
Exactly. And also there's a lot of questions in the comments, and I think we will answer them probably towards the end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't worry. We'll answer your questions, and people we'll answer.
Yes, we'll get to those. We have just a couple more slides, because I want to just piggyback off of all of that and introduce something that Jacob and I have been talking about, and that my co-founder, Jeff Goldman, has been doing for years, which is acting as an agent for athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, and professionals who are looking to take control over their career path and have the scenario that Jacob has painted here, which is the individual foreign national has multiple employers or employment opportunities that they would like to engage in and are looking for that trusted agent. So for the background here, Jeff Goldman is my father. He is my co-founder of the Build Fellowship and historically Open Avenues Foundation, if anyone on the call has heard of Open Avenues. And we've run a CAP-exempt H-1B program, which is, at the end, I'll talk about it. It's a great alternative if you're not yet qualified for an O1. A CAP-exempt H-1B is a good solution. But we also realize and recognize that there are so many individuals who are qualified for these O1s, and we want to be there to facilitate those pathways. Jeff used to run a company called Athletes Worldwide, which has for years provided agent services specifically to athletes. And together we came together and said, let's continue that work, but let's also open this pathway to be an agent for other artists and for entrepreneurs. We have so many in our vast network of doing this work in the H-1B space for 7 years. We now have a massive network of companies that are looking to hire talent, to sponsor talent, and all of that makes this a really interesting space for us to also be in. And so we launched a few months ago Build Extraordinary, which is providing agent services to individuals, as Jacob was talking about, in partnership with law firms. So Jacob, and we are going to be collaborating here, and anyone who comes to us and is seeking these agent services, we really look forward to working with Jacob on the applications and the actual petitions and providing Jacob with the evidence of our agency and what we are doing here at Build. That makes this something that really holds up with USCIS. And again, USCIS is a black hole in many, many ways. But after years of working and putting together petitions, you learn really what is necessary for those petitions to be quality. And Jeff on our team obviously has 3 decades of experience putting together those O1s for extraordinary athletes and entrepreneurs as well. So we're really excited to launch this Build Extraordinary agent service. We will be providing the agent service and an option for H-1B for the O1 filing as well, in partnership with law firms such as Jacob. So we are really excited to hear more about your stories and your cases and figure out if we can be helpful here. For the Build Extraordinary pathway, we care about providing payment plans for individuals who cannot pay high fees up front. So we've always said that one of the things we want is to be able to open pathways, our mission, open career pathways for those who want to build their careers in the United States. And one of the pieces of feedback we received from folks that were seeking agent services and seeking O1 services was sometimes legal fees can be intensive upfront. And so what we are trying to do here is provide ongoing agent services at $300 per month. That will include the work that we're doing to maintain that agent to hold that status, and ongoing legal questions and support as you have us as an agent. And then in addition, if you are looking for your actual petition to be filed, it's $9.99 per month. So we're putting it on a payment plan with a 12-month minimum to reach our costs, but also will include agent services. And we will be quoting, depending on the difficulty of the case and depending on the attorney we work with, we'll quote the maximum number of months as well. So we'll give you a better idea, but the idea here to talk about today is that we want this to be feasible. We want this to work for you. We want to open pathways for individuals who want to go down this O1 route. So that's
I like that. That's a good, I think, the fact is that a lot of the agencies that are out there, they kind of, they don't have one focus. And I feel like this is going to help a lot of people that are interested to, specifically in the arts and media, to be able to get the deals they need without being worried about, am I going to lose my visa anytime if they close my case?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So Jacob, I think what a question that certainly comes to me a lot, because I'm working mostly, through the Build Fellowship and our CAP exempt H-1B program. Folks are coming to us because they aren't yet qualified for an O1, or they're playing around with the criteria and they need a solution today, and they're building up a better case for an O1. So when someone comes to you and they're trying to figure out their next steps, and you tell them, you really need to build a few more, you need to check a few more boxes when you're in, on these necessary criteria before you apply for an O1. How are you advising folks to think about their next steps? And that's pretty general, but what do you typically think about when you think of those plan B options?
So, the way we do it, and I mentioned to you before that we are part of the law firm. We also have a technology company that we took over that is focused on O1s and EB1As, which is the green card path for O1. And we work with a lot of these people, and some of them, they don't necessarily qualify right away, but they're almost there. And so we have a program that we put them on, where we basically kind of coach them and help them understand what they need to do to be able to build their resumes to get to the O1. But if somebody needs an immediate option, some of these people who are coming here, specifically artists, they can do what is called an E2 visa, which is like it's a mini investment visa where they can start their own little company, like a consulting company. A lot of the influencers, the YouTubers, some of the TikTokers we worked with, who were not ready for an O1, but they had the funds because they are making money before they come here.
Mm-hmm.
They could use the E2 as a bridge to come here, set up some kind of an operation to be able to start, at least get contracts, and then switch to the O1 once they have built their reputation. So, some of them, like I said, they could do H1B, but H1B, in that space is a little bit limited. Even if they go through a program like yours, they still need to meet certain criteria. So in arts, in media, in entertainment, movies, the H1B is not really something we use. But again, many of these people, we put them on a path to get them qualified for the O1, even if it takes sometimes 6 months. And in the meantime, we offer them options like I said, the E2. Some people can come on a J1, where they come work as a trainee in a production company or any of these modeling agencies, to come as a trainee for a year. And they come and they do certain things. There's a limit to what you can do in a J1, but it's a way to get in the door, and then eventually switch to something like the O1. Mm-hmm. If you're Canadian or Mexican, you can do a TN visa, which is a temporary visa to come and work in a particular industry, even in arts and entertainment. So some people can't qualify for the TN visa if you come from one of these countries. Some Australians can use the E3. It's very limited because it's kind of like the H1B. So, but some people can still do that. But I would say most people that are not qualified for the O1 and they're really serious about their business, they can do an E2 as an alternative route before they come in.
Yeah, amazing. And from our perspective, we have a lot of individuals who are professionals who have at least a bachelor's degree coming to us because they fall within the Department of Labor's specialty occupation fields, right? So we have folks in marketing and finance and engineering and urban planning and software development, really across a range of occupations. And if you have one of these, if you are working in one of these fields, and I'll share the link while we're going through a Q&A of how to look if you fall within these fields, and you have at least a bachelor's degree in a relevant field, you do qualify for an H-1B. And the problem for anyone who's looked into H-1Bs in this country is that they're limited in number and they're on a lottery system every year at the end of March. And if you don't win that lottery, you don't get an H-1B that year. And so it's a frustrating alternative, but what we run is a CAP exempt H-1B program called the Build Fellowship. So for folks who are qualified for an H-1B, but they aren't selected in that annual lottery, you can actually work in our fellowship part-time And because we are a nonprofit affiliated with universities, we qualify as exempt from the cap. We qualify as exempt from the lottery. And so we do these part-time employment opportunities in the fellowship program, and it allows anyone here to go work for any other employer as well, as long as it's within your field. So that's if there's any interest here, if you are working in a specialty field or have explored H-1B, please reach out to me. And we can chat also about the cap exempt H-1B route. Again, this is all if you don't meet those criteria today, because sometimes it just takes time to build up those cases. Someone here might be still in college and thinking about next steps, and you might need a couple years to participate in those hackathons and win them, or get something published that you've been working on in college, right? There's just these criteria that sometimes do take a little bit more time. So if you have, if you need those stopgap solutions, you can reach out about those as well. I am going to stop sharing my screen and would love to actually turn over to these questions, and folks feel free to put more questions into the chat, and I'm going to try to facilitate more of a Q&A style at this point. We did have a lot of questions come through. So Shadi, just to start out, we will absolutely send this PowerPoint to you. And we even can send the recording so that if you want to go back and listen to any part of this, you can. Sarah asked a question, what is the requirement to be an agent? We really did go over that. So I feel like, we covered that one. But she did ask specifically, Jacob, could a lawyer act as an agent for an engineer? So could a lawyer act as an agent?
So, that's actually a good question. And so if an immigration lawyer, and there was a real case like that we actually, I worked on, where an immigration lawyer was an agent for an O1 client, and that case went through a very, very extensive request for evidence. Eventually, it was denied because the USCIS said that, first of all, there's a conflict of interest there, because the same lawyer was the one that did the green card, they did the O1 visa. And second of all, that's not the normal business of the lawyer to be an agent. You know what I mean? So I would never do that, obviously, in my practice. Like we will never serve as an agent to anyone, because that's bad for reputation, our reputation with USCIS, but also I know that it could hurt the client. So I don't think it's a good idea for the actual petitioning lawyer to be the agent, or for any lawyer for that matter, unless that's their business. So some entertainment lawyers potentially could do that if they can show that in addition to being legal counsel, they also do other things. Mm-hmm. But I think her question was whether an immigration attorney can also be the agent, and I would say probably no.
Right. And along those same lines, could a manager sign and be the agent for this O1B, and do they need to be an agent?
So the way I understand the question is that we have a company. In the company, we have a manager, and that manager, if he signs the petition, he signs as a representative of the employer. That's not an agent. So unless the company is in the business of being the agent, then the manager can sign it. You know what I mean? But if the manager signs it as an employer, then that petition it's an employer. Mm-hmm. But if the company is an agency and the manager signs it, then it's an agent. You know what I mean?
And that's in line with the law reads, you have to be in the business of being an agent to be an agent, right? Correct. And so that is, I think, in line with what we're talking about here. Shadi is asking, if an individual is a freelancer, how can she hire an agent to handle all of this freelance work to qualify for US with this agent petitioner? And she said she's specifically an individual asking for an architect or a multimedia artist.
Okay, so that's a good example where this individual could sign up with this agency, the build agency, and the agency will have a variety of areas where they'll be representing, and this one will be part of their art and design track. And so they'll sign up with an agency like this one, and the agency will sign their O1 petition because they are in the business of representing artists, designers, and things like that. So that's one example how it can work.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the reality is also individuals shouldn't conflate being an agent with the employer. So the agent is not providing the work. You have to demonstrate that you actually have work lined up in this field in which you are saying you are extraordinary in. So I like, Shadi, that you have examples here of being an adjunct professor in that field and having exhibitions in that field, that all creates the case in which an agent could be the sponsor of the visa, but not the employer. So that's just the differentiator there, but that definitely makes a lot of sense here. Greg, I think, wanted a little bit of clarification on a specific question about the agency dynamic. So Greg, I actually see that you raised your hand. Do you want to hop in if I give you the mic? I think that might be easier if you're still here. Let me see. He is. Okay. Greg, I just gave you the mic if you want to hop in. I know you have a couple questions.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, great. Hey, Jacob. Okay, so specifically, I know Danielle had asked the question, if you leave from one agency to another, and you kind of answered it more, if you leave from one skill to another, like, okay, I'm maybe an influencer, but now I'm doing speaking engagement, such and such. But if a model were to leave Elite Models and join Forum Models, can they transfer that visa, or do they have to just get a completely new visa?
So if the model is working with an agency, which is independent agency, and that agency holds their visa, and then they have the contract with Elle, and then they move to Ford, then they don't need to change the visa because the agency is the one that takes their contract. That's the reason why it's good to work with an independent agency, not the modeling agency directly. So yes, but if Elle hold their visa, now they have to switch to Ford and they're going to sponsor them. Then we need to file a new visa with Ford as the employer.
Okay,
So,
got it. So they cannot transfer that. They have to do a brand new visa, and they have to pay the $3,000 again, or whatever those fees are.
correct.
Okay, great. And then also, I guess I'll just keep talking since I've got a couple questions here. So just to confirm that your company, Danielle, Build Extraordinary, so it's a company that will basically sponsor foreign talent, acting as the agency sponsor. And then once if I'm like a freelance dancer or model in Europe, I can hire you, and then you will connect me to Jacob to handle the legal part of it. That's part of what you guys are doing.
Exactly. We are working with Jacob, and we have one other law firm as well that has their own niche. Jacob's working with specifically in this area with models, artists, and influencers, and we'll be working with him to facilitate the legal work here and ensuring that we're partnering with him, but we will be acting as the agent and providing him and his law firm with the evidence of that agent representation.
Excellent. And then again, just to confirm, so if I were a foreign model seeking your services, seeking to sign with Build Extraordinary, then to get your services and Jacob's services together, I would pay $300 per month times 12 months, and then for Jacob, and $9.99 a month times 12 months for you.
We would look at I'd work with Jacob. Every lawyer that we work with has a different fee structure. So what I would do is we're trying to give payment plans. So I'm going to work with Jacob, and we're going to look at the complexity of your case and understand the total cost. And we will give the agent services plus that payment plan to ensure that we are able to pay Jacob for his legal services and also provide you with the agent services on top of that. And so it will be a unique quote, but the idea is that you will be on a payment plan versus paying upfront.
Gotcha. But it could, just kind of like totally ballparking it. It could,
Sure.
the cost of me as a talent coming into the States could be like $12,000. Okay. All right. Gotcha.
To do this pathway with the
Yeah.
agent service. If you go to Jacob and you say, hey, you go directly to Jacob and say, hey, I have an employer and I want to do an O1, you should totally do that. What we're trying to say is if you need agent services and you would like a payment plan, then this could be a really good path for us to collaborate with Jacob and you to make this happen.
Of course, because many talent cannot get an agency. I mean, I'm an agent, so like, for our talent that we bring in, total cost will probably be about $2,800 to $3,000. But if there's a model that cannot get an agency, that's where you become very valuable as a company. Okay, great. And my last one was if a model gets a visa through, say, their New York model agency, can they also work with that visa to work through an LA agency and Chicago agency, or no?
So like I mentioned, Greg, if the first agency from New York is holding their visa, they can only work for that agency.
Gotcha.
So that's why, many of these models are looking for what is called a general agency, kind of like what this model is about, where they can skip around and do different projects, because otherwise they have to time the movement from agency A to agency B without losing the momentum or the work authorization.
Gotcha. Okay, great. So they need to have a visa through the LA agency, the Chicago agency, and the New York agency individually. So I think I came really late, right, when you're talking about the general agency. So there's an option to have a visa that you can skip around to multiple agencies.
Correct. Which is basically what Danielle project will be doing, where
Okay.
they'll need the visa for the model, and then the agencies will be our deal memos. They'll be the proof that they have work with agency in New York, agency in LA, agency in anywhere else in the US, and they don't have to skip visas every time.
Totally. And
Great.
Greg, three 01 visas separately and having those agencies across the US could be $9,000, right? Just if you get the $3,000 visa and have to keep redoing these visas, or you can hold a visa with an agent, a US agent, and that enables you to go work with those agencies. So it's really about, do you already have booked business, as in with multiple agencies or with multiple galleries or with multiple companies? If so, then the best bet is for you to come through an 01 agent and think about doing all of those under one visa.
Great. So if I had a model that was foreign that could work in multiple markets in the US, the best thing is to go through Build Extraordinary, and then you can do a sort of this general visa that covers multiple agencies.
Yes.
Amazing. And what's that called, Danielle?
So the company is called Build Extraordinary.
What is the all general visa?
It's an 01B through an agency.
Through an agency.
As opposed to an 01B through an employer.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Yep. Awesome. Great. Thanks, Greg. Cool. We'll go to the next question. I see one from Pushkar, who talked about what should be the criteria for getting an 01 for an educational YouTuber in programming.
So, educational YouTubers. So the way it works with educational YouTubers is that they have two kinds of scenarios. One scenario is that they're coming for a project. Let's say one I've done recently was it's a collaboration on a podcast, right? A video podcast where they come in, they need to be here for, let's say, 8 months. So in this case, the agency that produces the podcast was sponsoring the 01B. However, once the client was on that podcast, now he wants to be collaborating with 7 other podcasts. The other 7 podcasts have products, whatever. So now that visa is limiting him. He can't do it anymore. So now he has to switch to an agency, kind of like this one, where now he can do multiple projects at the same time, because now he has the project. When he first came to the US, he only had one offer from that main podcast. You know what I mean? So when I do this analysis, I ask you questions. What kind of projects are we doing? Who is the main sponsor? Do you even have a main sponsor? What is the plan in the next year? And based on that, we decide, should they work with a general agency or start with a one company and then switch to a general agency? You know what I mean? We do the analysis. That's why working like this with somebody who is in the field will help you save a lot of time and money moving forward. Because it's all about time in this industry, right? Everything is moving so fast. And so, and traditionally immigration lawyers are very slow. They take forever to analyze. Here we're dealing with influencers. They're like, you know what? I'm here. I'm in Canada. I need to work yesterday. And so we have to come up with, okay, so to work yesterday, you have to come here first as a visitor, get the interview, get this. You know what I mean? It's almost like we are building a landing plan for our clients in the industry. And every single part of the plan has to work to avoid immigration violation, to avoid losing time, money, and the best path moving forward, which I think what we're doing, what Build Extraordinary is going to do is going to open the door to so many talent to be able to achieve that without the stress of, oh my God, who's going to sponsor my visa? What's going to happen tomorrow when my contract is over?
Yeah, exactly. And we have someone named Prosperous Steve. I'm going to allow you to come on here if you want to ask your question.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yes. So, greetings to you, Sha, Jacob, and Danny Godem. I'm happy seeing myself, participating on these webinars. I'm so happy. I think this I'm new, Sha, but no, today is not my first day. The other day, I think that was my first day. So I'm really, really interested this program. You people are actually really helping a lot. So what I'm trying to say is this: I'm an artist. For example, I'm an artist, I'm a musician. So what's I really need a guideline how, like, I don't have money like to come over. So is there any platform for me that will help me, to come over? Anything like that, you know,
Where are you from,
me
Steve? Where are you from originally?
from, yeah,
Where?
from Nigeria.
Nigeria. Okay.
From Nigeria.
So here's how I tell you.
Yeah.
I do a lot of work with specifically artists from Nigeria and a lot of countries in that
Okay.
region. The biggest problem in that region is that it's impossible for people to get visas. And the reason is because the denial rate at US embassies in Nigeria is over 95% for any visa, right? So what I tell clients, specifically artists, where they don't have really proof of income, is that you need to find a way to get that tourist visa first. And the way you're going to do it is you're going to show that you're getting enough work, you're known in the industry in Nigeria, you're getting press. Literally follow that roadmap that I've done for quite a few artists. Once you get that
Okay.
tourist visa, because you show them, listen, I'm somebody that has a reason to go back to Nigeria. Once you get a tourist visa, you come to the United States, you start meeting with galleries, with agencies. You can sign up with the Danielle's agency, because for you it's like a catch-22. You can't sign up with this agency because you don't have future work.
Yeah.
You don't have future work because you can't be in the US because you get denied visas. Do you understand? So we got to break that cycle. And the way you break that cycle, you show up at the US embassy with your portfolio and you say, you know what? I'm not like the rest of the 95%. I am somebody who is, you know what I mean? Like I said, I've done this for a guy from Ghana. He was denied 15 times a visa. He followed this path and he got his visa approved after 8 months of doing what I told him to do. And the reason is, like I said, people focus on America as this black hole. America is not a black hole. It's a strategy. You follow a strategy, you get one visa, you come here, and now things are open. Now you can apply, use what, because if you're from Canada, if you're from Europe, it's a different story. We can easily go back and forth. Nigerians, people from Ghana, other countries in the region, the biggest hurdle is how do you get that visa, right? So you're not even there yet. Get the visa first, and then work on the other stuff.
Thank you, Jacob. I'm going to go to the next individual. Steve, hope that was helpful. I thought it really was insightful. Miguel, I'm going to have you hop in here.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, great. Hi. So my question is, I think it's more for Jacob, and basically I would like to understand a little bit more about the E2 visa. Can you discuss a little bit more about that, and what you would have to do, like more generally, to get that visa?
Where are you from, Miguel?
I'm from Portugal.
Portugal. The good news is that Portugal was just admitted to the E2 literally this year.
Wow.
So
Oh, really?
One thing I have
Okay,
to say about the E2 visa, and again, this seminar is focused on the O1. Maybe we'll do another one, Danielle, about other visas. And also at the end of the webinar, we can put my Instagram. You can DM me. The best way to reach me, we'll put you all the information so we can ask unrelated questions.
Right.
But E2 visa has a list of countries. Not every country in the world, and Nigeria is not on the list. Portugal just joined this year. So for the E2, you have to show that you have money, right? At least 50,000 US dollars and a business plan.
Okay.
That's pretty much all you need. Everything else can be achieved, can be created. But if you don't have the money to start the E2, then, but we can discuss it. I mean, I don't know what the scope of this webinar, Daniel, but anybody has other questions, I'll leave my information and you guys can contact me separately but we want to focus. But artists,
that would be great.
Artists, just so you know, artists
as an artist, as an actor,
focus on the E2 because the E2 is a creator visa. You're creating something from nothing. You're creating a company.
Right.
So a lot of artists who don't qualify for the O1 or don't want to do an O1, E2 is their second best. It's like a sister visa because it has a lot of creativity and you can do a lot of things that you can't do if you don't have a job opportunity.
Can actors do it and have the, have the E2 visa and work as actors and build some kind of business to be able to work in the industry?
Yes, but
Okay.
there's a
Okay.
very specific way how actors do it. I've done it for a few actors. And like I said, maybe we're outside of the scope of this webinar. I'm happy to talk to you privately.
Yeah,
It's very doable
let's
for
do that.
very
Yes.
very doable for actors. And the reason is because the industry is changing. Many actors are also receiving royalties from their participation in movies. And E2
Right.
visa could be a good vehicle to hold that royalty. I mean, look at Deadpool. Deadpool, both of these actors, they have a very high stake in the distribution
Right.
rights of this movie. And this is
Right.
something that's been changing the industry in the past 7 years. And even new artists, like I'm telling you, we have one client that a brand new artist, he did the documentary. I told him, don't take money, take royalties 100%, because I knew that this movie is
Interesting.
gonna go far, and he did it. He only took royalties,
Right.
and now he's in a different level because he's able to take this money and do other stuff. So it's
Okay,
E2 is
that's
a good
great.
vehicle, but we can talk about it separately because it's a whole different
I
ballgame.
I would really like that. All right. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thanks, Miguel.
Amazing. Great. Well, we are at time, everyone. I think there's a lot more questions that could be answered, and Jacob and I definitely want to be resources for you moving forward. So I put in here the information for Build Extraordinary. If you go to our website, you can fill out a form, you can contact us. We will get in touch with you and we will be liaising with Jacob and his law firm for anyone who ends up moving forward with any services for either the agent or the legal services. We will be working with Jacob on that. Jacob's Instagram is in here. We're also going to follow up with any additional contact information, the recording, and you can contact us from there. So wow, Jacob, I learned a lot. I bet a lot of people here learned a lot, and this was really fun.
If you get enough votes, we'll do part 2.
Yeah, I think we have
Right?
to. I think we have to do the O1 backup plans and visa categories in general, because I think there's just so much there that we can continue to dig into. So excited for our next convo.
Excellent.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
guys. It was a pleasure and very good questions. And like I said, it's always so rewarding to see so many creative people. Like I said, one of the reasons why I enjoy working in this industry is because the creativity of our clients flows back to us. And you can see behind me, a lot of the stuff is gifts from clients, like the painting behind me, these statues. It's all stuff the clients gave to me over the years because of the achievements I've done, and keeps me motivated.
So cool. Love it. Awesome. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you
Thanks,
again,
guys.
Jacob. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Of course.